Well, our Defence and Security Analyst, Professor Michael Clarke, joins me now. Michael, good to see you. Let's talk about what's happening on the ground. And we're going to focus first on Bakhmut. Russia appears to be making gains around this city. Can you tell us what we know?
Yes, it's the one place where, on the ground, the Russians do seem to be making gains. The Wagner Group are attacking Bakhmut. They've made it into their objective. They've tried from the frontal assault from the east. They've tried from the north, and that was pretty disastrous. But they do now seem to be moving in from the south. They seem to have crossed the Bakhmutek River, and they're on the other side of the river. And there's a lot of fighting going on at Kurdia, Mivka and Drivka. But even so, they're about 8 or 9 kilometres away from the outskirts of Bakhmut, and that's all open ground. So if they are going to attack from the south, and I'm sure that's what they will try to do, they've still got quite a lot of hard fighting ahead of them. But it does seem to be the case that they're having a bit more success at Bakhmut, but it is costing them dearly to do so.
Is Bakhmut an isolated area of gains, then? Because, of course, a lot is concentrated around Kherson, the battle for that. How's Russia faring there?
Everywhere else, they're digging in. And this is a really interesting map. This is done by the Institute for the Study of War, who are excellent, and this is a really good piece of research, using a lot of satellite data. They've logged where the Russians are digging in on the east side of the Dnieper River. And so the Kherson city is here. The Ukrainians took Kherson city, and all of these triangles represent fixed fortifications which the Russians have built. All the Cs represent concentrations of troops, and a barracks there, for instance, another barracks here. And what it shows us is that the Russians are really fortifying their side of the river, opposite Kherson city, but here, this is Novokukhovka. The Russians really seem to expect the Ukrainians to try to cross the Dnieper River, probably around Novokukhovka. The other thing that's interesting is that you see how they fortified all of their lines of communication. They obviously expect or worry that the Ukrainians will really try to invade, as it were, the other part of the oblast. And so they're protecting their lines of communication. They obviously think, I guess, they've taken so many troops away from Kherson to send them to Donbass that their forces here are relatively light, so they've got to have more fortifications. It's a really interesting map because it shows us what the Russians are worried about.
Yeah, very much so. We heard President Zelensky saying, look, you know, cold, dark days ahead, and this is only going to stop when Moscow runs out of missiles, but Ukraine are getting some of their own.
Yes, the Americans are talking about this ground-launched, small-diameter bomb. And Boeing, who work with Saab on this, they say, look, we've got plenty of rockets and we've got some new accurate warheads. We can put the rockets and the warheads together very cheaply, about 40,000 each, which is cheap for a missile. And we can have lots of them ready, lots of them, by spring next year. It's very similar to the Brimstone 2, which we have given, the British have given to the Ukrainians. It's the same sort of thing, a standard rocket with a different sort of warhead on. The thing that's good about this, from the Ukrainians' point of view, that the rocket itself sprouts wings once it's been fired. It's got a range of about 100 miles, and it's very accurate. So we all expect there to be a resumption of this war at a greater intensity after Christmas, or after the winter. As and when that happens, accurate rockets with a 100-mile range will be really, really useful to the Ukrainians. So in a way, the Allies are trying to think about what will the Ukrainians need in the spring when this war will start up again at greater intensity.
OK, Michael, for the moment, thank you, Professor Michael Clarke, there with analysis.